Growing up, we are all told about the dangers of drugs and drug addiction, but how exactly does drug addiction work, and what can we do about it? To answer these questions, we are going to take a close look at my friend Jim. Within Jim's brain, there is something called the reward system, which is responsible for motivating him to complete acts that are necessary for his survival, such as drinking and eating. It does this by releasing dopamine, the pleasure neurotransmitter, in small amounts into his brain as a reward. So, for example, when Jim eats some grapes for breakfast, the reward system releases some dopamine to let him know, hey, this is good, keep on going. This reward gives Jim a small amount of pleasure and tells his brain to remember, hey, when you see a grape, you better eat it. But what does this have to do with addiction? Addictive substances such as drugs and alcohol trick Jim's reward circuit into releasing large amounts of dopamine into the brain. So unfortunately, Jim has just been injured, and he's been put on a prescription of opioid painkillers. Jim is also unlucky because he's genetically vulnerable to opioids, meaning that they give him even more of a... Also, Jim has anxiety, which, like depression and stress, has shown to make addictive substances far more influential. Without these vulnerabilities, Jim probably would have been able to carry out his prescription normally. But with the vulnerabilities, the continued use of the drug begins to change his brain. Jim's brain is used to maintaining biological balance, or homeostasis. However, the large amounts of dopamine released by the drugs begin to upset it. So to maintain balance, his brain reduces the amount of dopamine receptors, which means that less of the dopamine is absorbed and less rewards are given by the drug. To receive the same reward, Jim has to take more and more of the drug, which continues the process, until eventually the only way Jim can receive a substantial reward is from huge amounts of the drug. Because normal sources of dopamine no longer provide him with a reward, his brain is entirely focused on obtaining the drug, and it will force Jim to do anything to obtain it. And this is when Jim is truly addicted. Because Jim has to take so much of his painkiller to get a reward, he's forced to go after harder drugs such as heroin, which open up whole new dangers, such as overdosing or crime. Sadly, Jim's story is one that millions of people suffer through every year worldwide. So now that we know how addiction works, what can we possibly do about it? Firstly, if you suffer from stress, anxiety, or depression, and you're genetically predisposed to becoming addicted, you need to realize the risks of taking prescription painkillers. Secondly, we need to make sure that treatment is available for all current addicts so they can achieve lasting success. And if we can't give them treatment, offer your own support if you can. And most importantly, as a society, we need to let go of the stigma and recognize that addiction isn't a choice, but a true mental disease. With all this and more, hopefully people like Jim can get back to their normal selves. Thanks for watching, and Papa bless.